Howdy. This week, I decided to add a second video because I went and saw Avengers Endgame. Now, I've seen it before. I saw it the day it came out. I saw it about 2 weeks afterwards, and I saw it again Friday. And I figure this is the best time to do a review about it, and we'll see how it goes. I went this time because I knew they were adding some things to it. They added a Stan Lee tribute that was very nicely done. They added an end credit scene, which actually turned out to be good because I didn't stay for the credits the first time because I knew there were no end credit scenes. And it was nice what they did with the tribute to all the original Avengers. I thought that was very nicely done. And I like how the end credit scene actually leads to the new Spider-Man movie, which comes out next week. And I'll be there the day after it opens. Usually I'm there the day it opens, but it's a holiday and things are going on. So this time I'm just going to be a little late. And I thought I would just do my little bit of review. I've actually already did this. And then I realized, my God, I left so many things out. I just have to do it again. So let's see if the second one comes out better. And also, if you're used to me wearing glasses, if you're a watcher and you've seen me with glasses most of the time, if I wore them right now, it would be reflecting, the light from outside, because I got outside light trying to make my skin tone look a little more realistic, and it was just reflecting so much, it was just getting on my nerves. So take that into account. So let's look at Endgame. It was the perfect follow-up to Infinity War. I mean, this is a fun movie. It's now in my top 3. I don't know if it'll always stay there, but right now it's in my top 3 favorite movies. And Infinity War was there, so it knocked Infinity War out. I enjoyed this movie so much. And I think that because it's the culmination of a series of movies that, 10 years, 12 years that we have watched that brought us to this point, I think that's what helped to make it more personal. The 2 movies it's behind, by the way, one of them you're not going to beat me up on, which is the second Harry Potter movie, Deathly Hallows version 2, and Independence Day. Independence Day is my favorite movie of all time. I don't care what anyone else has to say about it. It just is. It just flows through my heart and my sensibilities. So there you go. This is number 3 right now. And, well, let's just go through the characters first before I get to everything else. And I have to go Thor. We just got to talk about Thor. I didn't see that coming. Nobody saw that coming. But it makes a lot of sense. We talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, for, those who are used to those letters. And it just fit perfectly. I've seen folks who have crushed and done a whole lot of things. And if he wasn't a god, so to speak, drinking all that alcohol would have already killed him. And I've seen that happen. So even though, there were a lot of people who didn't see the humor in this, I thought that they handled it the best way they could. If Rocket hadn't taken shots at Thor, and if Tony hadn't taken shots at Thor, we'd all said, well, wait, they're out of character. They're not doing the kind of thing that they usually do. It had to be done that way. But when it came time for him to be Thor the way we need him, he was right there. And I think they handled him well. Then we had Natasha. And it was the first time that we ever saw her that vulnerable. We've never seen her that vulnerable in anything else, not even in Infinity War. And this was something else. I mean, seeing how she was barely holding it together those 5 years and everything that she did, trying to keep hope. I mean, she just did. And you could see with the 2 colored hair at one point where she had both the red and the blonde. Part of me said, wait, she couldn't find a hairdresser, but she didn't care at the time. I think they handled that really well. I think they handled the thing between her and Clint very well when she first went to get him after he was killing all these gang people across the world. And then on Vormir, great chemistry between those 2. It's too bad they didn't have their own TV show. Although I haven't watched a regular TV show in so long, I don't know if I'd have watched it. But those 2 together, wow. That's all I have to say. I have to bring in Captain Marvel because there were some people who said, well, she really wasn't in it all that much for everything she did, but she wasn't supposed to. This was basically a thing for the originals. Yeah, you brought some people in, But this was really all about the original cast members because that's what it was supposed to be. I mean, it was the original Avengers who fought the very first Avengers movie, and they were there in the second Avengers movie. And this is the group who, really helped to establish it. So you needed all of them to be highlighted. But I loved what she did in this movie. And the thing with the hair, I thought that was very interesting. I don't know. Captain America, Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers was Steve Rogers. I got to tell you the truth. When I finally saw the first Avenger, which was many years after it came out, and I said, you know what, this guy has been true to that character through the entire thing. And I thought how funny it is. As some of you may not know this, I actually do leadership and diversity training as well as being a healthcare finance consultant. And he is amazing in the fact that everyone knows who the guy is who's going to lead. And he's going to say his thing. And even in the movie, Rocket says, he's very good at that. Man says, yeah, he sure is. I thought, you know what? That is actually what you need. You have that guy who brings everyone together. You have the guy talking about, Avengers Attack. And you have the guy who's, every time he's setting the plan. He wants to see if someone else has something. But he knows, let's open up to everyone else because I am not the expert at everything. What, you ain't got nothing? Okay, then this is what we're going to do. That's what true leaders do. That's what he did. It was fantastic. And then Hulk. Oh, my God. I have never kept up with all the comics. I mean, basically my comic reading ended in the 70s after my mother threw away all my comics. Like the mean parent that she was, with a lot of other parents did the exact same thing back then. So I never knew that there was a smart Hulk. I never knew there was a blue Hulk and a red Hulk or whatever. I just didn't know much about Hulk, except what I'd seen in a couple of cartoons. So that caught me off guard. I didn't see any of that coming. Oh, and by the way, there was an end scene of that where they didn't show a finished product of it, where they were showing the new him out there like saving lives and doing things with a fire. That was interesting as well. So have I missed anyone who was original? Who was in it? I don't think so. If I have, someone's going to let me know. So anyway, this is the premise where at the very beginning of the movie, you see them figure out where Thanos is. They go back to get him to try to get the Infinity Stones, and they found out that he has crushed all the Infinity Stones and all hope is gone. And Thor basically kills him by cutting off his head because he went for the head, which is what he didn't do in Infinity War. Like he's supposed to know he was supposed to do that. And suddenly it's 5 years later. And you see what they're going through. And it was just, one of those kind of things where, okay, we know something's good's going to happen. And Ant-Man, of all things, he comes out of his van. And I have to tell you, I wasn't able to watch either Ant-Man movie. I'm just not enamored with the character in his own movies. But I've enjoyed him in Civil War, and I enjoyed him in this movie. And it was funny, having him kind of come out, and he thinks it's only minutes, and then he realizes what's going on. And really, he was the guy who brought everything together, at least a general idea. And they start off with Tony, who was trapped in space. Because I wondered that after Infinity War, I said, wait, how are they going to get him back on Earth? What's going to happen with him and Nebula? And by the way, another reason I had to do this video again is because I could not remember Nebula's name the first time around. So I wondered how they were going to get it back. But then when I saw the previews, I had a bet it was going to have to be Captain Marvel. And sure enough, she showed up just at those last minutes. And she brought him and Nebula back. And even at that point, he still had animosity against Steve Rogers for what happened in Civil War. But he eventually came around. They had Hulk, who's now the mixture of Banner and Hulk, trying to figure out the science for quantum physics. And it was Tony who figured out the way that they could all go back and get the Infinity Stones in their different ways. And every character pretty much had at least their bit of time. I mean, Natasha and Clint had their time together. Tony got to meet his father before he was born and find out his father was a much different man than what he thought. Thor got to see Peggy Carter again and had to relive that. Thor got to see Loki again, who basically, Loki was killed at the beginning of Infinity War, but he sees Loki again and stuff happens there. Thor gets to see his mother, who was killed in the second Thor movie. And of course, Rocket was Rocket. Rocket was funny as anything. And you know what? You just end up loving all of these movies, all these characters, everything that happened. Um, and there were people who saw something in one of the trailers beforehand that I just was missing. I never saw it. I didn't know what was going to happen. And then just as they've brought all the people back, bam, suddenly they're being attacked from space or from the sky. And Thanos is just kicking behind. And now we're going to get into basically the last part of the movie, which was the big fight scenes. And I was confused, and I'm still confused by this, so maybe some of you comic book people can help me with this. Because initially, when I saw it the first time, and it was hard to take everything in, there was so much going on the first time, which is why I saw it the second and third time. I'm sitting there thinking, well, Thanos is able to pick up Molinar, we'll just call it the hammer. He's able to pick that up. Well, it turns out he never actually picked up the hammer, but he was able to basically throw around Thor and Captain America, who also was suddenly worthy of being able to pick up the hammer. He was able to throw them around even when they were holding the hammer. And my mind said, well, wait, if he can't pick up the hammer directly, how come he can pick up the hammer when when they're holding it? One would think that he wouldn't be able to do anything to them. So someone explained that to me. But Captain America knew everything that he was supposed to do with that hammer. And it just seemed like Thanos was stronger in this movie than he was in Infinity War. I mean, he really was. In the first one, of course, he had all those folks, who were kind of coming after him, but he just seemed stronger this time around. And he still got his behind kicked. I love where he is fighting Captain Marvel, and he tries to headbutt her and nothing happens. And then I was surprised because what he does is he takes the Power Stone out of the glove and he smacks her and she goes flying. And it never occurred to me that he could actually take each stone back out and use it independently. He only did it the one time, but I never knew that that was anything that could be done. It shows just how smart he was. And I love the scene when they had all the women come together behind Peter Parker. I love that scene. There were some fanboys, I'm calling y'all out again, who didn't like that scene, saying, well, you're pandering to women. Yeah, like men have never been pandered to in anything in history, in movies. Y'all need to give it up. Come on, take a break. Go somewhere else with that stuff. Just enjoy the movie for what it was, which was a whole lot of fun and a whole lot of different scenes that they put in that we were going to enjoy. And then a couple we didn't. When we saw Clint and Natasha fighting each other to find out who was going to give their life in order to save everybody else, I called that one right. Because I said Clint has kids and he was missing them a lot. And so he had to get back to his family. And it was too bad that we saw her, basically give her life up for that. And then we get, of course, to the end of the movie where Tony gets to end basically, well, I don't want to say that he ended the movie, but he ended the conflict by using the exact same line he used at the end of the first Iron Man movie, which is I'm Iron Man. That crushed everybody. I mean, you just heard a collective gasp in the theater, at least the first time I saw it. This time wasn't as many people, but people just gasped because they knew what was going to happen. And he passed away, and boy, they had some very sad scenes in it, after that, where he had recorded something just in case he died. And then they had the funeral with all the, different characters, and everyone was there. Almost everyone was there, because I don't think Thor was there, now that I think about it. Thor wasn't there. Gamora wasn't there. That was funny how they handled that, because remember, in Infinity War, Thanos killed Gamora so that he could get the Soul Stone. And then, they go back in the future, back in the past, where Nebula is connected to her future self and past self. They're both connected because now they're in the same timeline. And so Thanos now figures out what's going on, and Gamora now knows what's going on, but she's Gamora from 5 years earlier. And now you have Quill, who shows up, like, oh my God, it's Gamora. He goes over to put his hand behind her head and give her a kiss, and she kicks him in the junk. And she says, this is what I fall in love with. And she says, well, it was either him or a tree man. And that was funny. That was, this movie had a good mix of humor. And that's the one thing that Marvel really captured that some of the DC movies, even though I enjoyed them, didn't capture as much, which was the humor. The humor is what brings people together. okay, it sounds weird since it was Rocket doing it, he's not human, but that's what makes us human, is being able to find a little bit of humor even in times where things are a little tense. And it really, this movie here, it just captured all the kinds of things in it that I love. It just did. And I'm glad that I saw it for the third time. It's the only movie in my life that I have paid to see 3 times, not including Rocky Horror Picture Show, which doesn't count because that was a midnight thing. Rocky Horror Picture Show was an event. I didn't go for the movie. I went for all the extras. And if those of you watching this know nothing about Rocky Horror Picture Show or the extras, go talk to someone who's at least 50 years old and they'll tell you some stuff. That's all I got. But I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I thought it was wonderful. I'm glad that I went to see it 3 times. I'm glad that it'll be coming out on DVD within a couple of months, and I will buy it the day it comes out, and I will be able to watch it multiple times. And I hope everyone else who watched this loved this movie. And I'm not one of those people who's going to sit there and say, well, it wasn't perfect. You know what? I thought it was pretty perfect. If it's in my top 3 right now, it was pretty perfect. I can't think of anything that happened in this movie that I didn't like, that I sat there and said, well, that doesn't make any sense. Now, I may think of something later, but right now I got nothing. So that's it. I gave away a couple of spoilers, but not really anything much. I mean, it's a 3-hour-long movie. I may have given you 5 or 6 minutes or something. So if you haven't seen it, what's wrong with you? Get out there and see this. Come on. If you have seen it, let me know your thoughts on it. Anyway, my name is Mitch Mitchell. I hope you've enjoyed this. You know, whenever I do a video on the phone, I'm never sure where I'm supposed to look. So if my eyes are looking everywhere else, hey, that's just life. Y'all take care. Have a wonderful week.